Let's both of us just stop trying to do this and admit that you're in danger.
Breaking Bad is one hell of a show. It's what many consider the pinnacle of modern TV drama. Incredible cinematography, outstanding acting, and really some of the funniest moments from a drama like this.
How did it happen? Did you not see it? Were you fucking...
This show is a monster, and it's a monster-sized task to try and tackle a character from it. Before we go any further, major spoilers. I'm going to talk about Jesse's arc, a summary of the show, and a bunch of other stuff. If you haven't seen Breaking Bad yet, go watch it. It's impossible to talk about this show or show clips without getting something spoiled. Final warning. Go watch it.
Do it! Do it! Come on! Come on!
When fans talk about Breaking Bad, they usually talk about Walter White or Saul Goodman. These two characters are almost bigger than life itself, so well written, and some of the most incredible performances you'll ever see, ever. I just realized that two of the main characters on the show are bald. Wait, oh, it's three. Wait, four. Oh my god. This is the baldest show on TV. One character that seems to get criminally undermentioned is Jesse Pinkman. Okay, sure, he got his own movie, and Aaron Paul won a shitload of Emmys as well. But I think his performance ultimately was overshadowed by other bigger characters. Everybody knows Walter White, that wacky guy from Malcolm in the Middle, who went on to give a performance for the ages. But I'm here today to shine a light on the little guy, literally.
Hi, I'm Aaron Paul, and I'm about to call you a bitch.
I believe that Jesse is a very underrated character. He's a tragic, lovable guy who's filled with heart, courage, and relatability. Ironically, the showrunner, Vince Gilligan, planned on killing Jesse off towards the end of the first season. But good luck trying to imagine Breaking Bad without him now. And I'd like to think it wasn't just because Aaron Paul was terrific in the role, but because they saw amazing potential between Jesse and Walt. And more than that, the differences between these two characters could fill a book on its own. Walter is shallow, conceited, egotistical, power-hungry, but Jesse's the opposite. He's selfless. He cares about others. And that's what makes this so tragic. Jesse does bad things. Many, many bad things. But we empathize still. He gets manipulated and forced into awful situations. But because we know he's just a sweet, caring guy, all we want is for him to be happy.
Rice, and that's definitely a big one. You don't see that every day, so when doctors, they hear that, they take it very seriously.
You know,
You just happen to guess this one rare poison might be the thing that put this little boy in the hospital.
I think I don't know, I must have saw it on a house or something.
This is ruined. Do you understand? Just ruined.
No, I understand you hooked it up wrong and blew it up.
No, that is not what happened.
Breaking Bad was a TV show that premiered on January 20th, 2008 on AMC. It follows a lower-class family with three young boys, all getting into trouble at... Oh, wrong show. The show follows Walter Hartwell White, a high school chemistry teacher that learns he has terminal lung cancer. Walter, a brilliant chemist who settled on a job he's overqualified for, decides to use his knowledge of science to create and sell methamphetamines to make enough money for his family before he dies. And when he goes on a ride-along to a meth lab with his DEA brother-in-law, and sees one of his former chemistry dropouts, Jesse, running from the scene, Walter blackmails him to teach him the street side of making meth. Jesse's reluctant at first. What, my dorky chemistry teacher is gonna create drugs with me?
Nah, come on. Man, some straight like you, giant stick up his ass, all of a sudden at age, what, 60? Just gonna break bad?
But when Jesse soon realizes that Walter is brilliant and has the formula to make the purest meth around, well, they know it'll change the drug scene forever. And just as the show is about Walt's family and his rise to power, Hank and the DEA unknowingly fighting against Walt and Jesse's products, and it's also about Gus, Mike, and Saul. But it's also about Jesse, trying to find his place in the world, find love, do what's right, and break away from the evil path he's down. He's a drug-using dropout, but like I said, he has courage. Breaking Bad has some of the best pacing of any show, and the tension and drama are top rate. The show has a killer premise, and it executes it brilliantly, episode after episode, season after season. The show has probably some of the highest IMDb ratings in history, and Ozymandias, one of the final episodes of the show, is one of the highest rated episodes of television ever. It's such a good episode. You probably remember it because of so much happening, but it's such a powerful episode. I remember where I was when I first watched it. I remember driving home after watching it at my parents', feeling drained, feeling like I wanted to cry. That's how powerful that episode was. Listen, I could ramble for hours about how great the show is, but that's not why we're here, is it?
Down, get a hold of yourself.
Stewardess, please let me handle this.
Let's now jump into the character of the hour. But before we do that, why don't we ask the question, who is Jesse Pinkman, and why might he be the greatest TV character ever? Jesse Bruce Pinkman. Wait, really? Bruce? Jesse was born on September 24th, 1984 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We don't get a lot of information about Jesse's upbringing. We know that he's born into a strict upper-middle-class household, where he lived with his parents and younger brother. After years of drug abuse and really abhorrent behavior during his teen-adolescent years, Jesse's parents kicked him out, where he went and lived with his terminally ill aunt. After Jesse's aunt died, he continued to live in her home, despite his parents disapproving of his behavior and technically owning the house.
You're kicking me out of my own house?
It's your Aunt Ginny's house.
And she gave it to me.
She never gave it to you, Jesse.
You are allowed residentiary privileges. Your parents have always been the property owners.
Jesse was a stoner who would rather skip class and get high than study or care about anything important. He showed interest occasionally and even displayed potential at times, but had gone down several bad paths. Jesse eventually drops out of school and starts cooking low-grade meth under the nickname Captain Cook. Walter White, Jesse's former chemistry teacher, sees Jesse fleeing from a crime scene. Walter searches old school records and finds where Jesse lives. Walter eventually blackmails Jesse to help him make meth together. Walt obviously has cancer. We went over this.
Shut up and get to the point!
Walt shows Jesse the ropes of chemistry and how science is actually interesting and usable. And while Walt teaches the science to Jesse, Jesse shows Walt the business side. Not that Jesse's any good at it, but Jesse's already broken bad. And the journey these two embark on over the next 2 years is nothing anyone could have predicted. They save each other's lives numerous times, not always selflessly, and get into more trouble than you can shake a stick at. They make good and bad decisions that affect each other and others forever. Like I've said before, we aren't here to talk about Walt. He's a very interesting study on his own, sure, and we'll tackle him down the road. But for now, let's focus on Jesse. I also don't think I'm going to really include El Camino in this analysis, since we're really going to focus on Jesse throughout Breaking Bad. El Camino does give us a great ending for him and conclude his arc. It doesn't really change who he is. Jesse seems to be a simple person. He's a drug user. He's not very intelligent. He wears baggy clothing and tries to act tougher than he is. He doesn't really have the best friends. Well, you know. He cares about his image, making a lot of money, and scoring chicks. What most young adult males do. But that description doesn't hold up over the course of the show. As we learn more and more about Jesse, we see his true colors. A more tender, soft side. Even boiling down to kids and animals, where we see him on multiple occasions really doing great with kids and showing empathy towards animals and bugs. He's a gentle soul and conscientious of others. But what we learn most prominently about Jesse is his loyalty. He's not just a stone-cold killer who takes orders. When Walt tries to coerce Jesse into killing Gus, and he finds himself in an opportunity where he could do it easily, Jesse defends the people who put trust in him and saves their lives. Jesse isn't a backstabber or a malicious evil person. If you put your faith in him, he won't back down or give up. The inner struggles and damage Jesse has to go through during Breaking Bad is heartbreaking. He endures more than anybody ever has to, witnesses terrible things, and has to grow up really fast. But he keeps us grounded. He gives us someone to root for in a show where everyone is just kind of a piece of shit.
Oh, I'm such a shit!
I've asked the question on my previous two characters, so I'll ask it here. Is Jesse an anti-hero?
Yeah.
Jesse's a protagonist that lacks conventional heroic traits. Jesse's a terrible student, a dropout, and an addict. He sells meth to people to try to make money. He doesn't possess heroic traits and has negatively affected a lot of people's lives. He got Jane back on drugs, and she dies. Jesse tries to murder two people who, yeah, killed his friend. And he killed Gail. Jesse's been manipulated more times than we can count, which is terrible. But to say Jesse's an amazing guy who makes others around him better and inspires others, that's a lie. Walter falls hilariously into the villain role in Breaking Bad as the show goes on. And it's nice to see Jesse move in the other direction. But it doesn't excuse who he is and what he's done. A character archetype represents a universal pattern we can recognize and relate to throughout cinema, media, and literature. Characters typically fall into one of 12 categories. Jesse falls into the caregiver archetype. Caregivers take care of others, sacrifice their time, energy, and wealth, and are undeniably loyal. They also lack ambition and leadership. It might be really easy to just say Jesse's a jester, right? He's funny, entertaining, loves to be the life of the party. But I think he's more complex than that, which is why I think he's a caregiver. Jesse physically took care of his dying aunt, whom he got really close to. Jesse's empathetic, loyal, and constantly sacrificing for others. He's not selfish. We have a lot of proof of this. There's a scene where he literally throws money out of his car. Yeah, I get that it was blood money and he was guilty, whatever. He takes a back seat to Walter's leadership and conniving schemes, all the while really lacking direction and personal ambition. He's a textbook caregiver.
What are you doing, man?
Let's now look at Jesse's motivations. What drives him and drives his decision making? This is interesting. because it really depends on what time period of the show we look at. Jesse's motivations in the first few seasons of Breaking Bad were a lot more simplistic. He wanted money, which is why he really began cooking in the first place. A lot of Jesse's early conflicts revolve around his financial situation. And not only did he want money, he really wanted to be great at something. He wanted the respect of Walter, his friends, and others in the meth trade. He wanted to be somebody and achieve greatness, even if he was standing on someone else's shoulders to get it. And also, he just wanted to be loved. He wanted to find his place in the world and fit in and be happy and comfortable. Oh, and of course, Jesse's also motivated by getting high. But as the show continues, Jesse's less motivated about being great and getting high and getting more out of the deep end of being in a dangerous business. He's motivated by staying alive. It's pledging his undying loyalty to someone that wouldn't hesitate to turn on him, who, in the end, does. Jesse's motivations are still about trying to find his place in the world, but it's less about being a great cook, and more about finding out who he is, and trying to make up for all the terrible things he's done. Like I said, Jesse gives us someone to root for. Despite his faults, we still believe he deserves salvation. He still has some good left to do. Let's now take a deep look at Jesse's IQ, intelligence types, and personality traits. What's Jesse's IQ, or intelligence quotient? IQ is defined as a single number that can summarize one's problem-solving and reasoning abilities. 100 is an average. And if we're going to have to give a single number to Jesse, he would fall below average.
I'm very sorry to hear that. That's disappointing. Yeah.
Remember, half of individuals are above 100 and half are below.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
I think IQ is misunderstood by the general public. I've heard so many people for years talking about characters, friends, politicians, all having 130, 140, 150 IQ. What they don't understand is that an IQ above 130 is less than 2% of the total population. When it comes to a sober Jesse, he's pretty sharp. We've witnessed some pretty clever things from him. But overall, day to day, I'd put him at an 85, or the 32nd percentile. How would Jesse do on a standard IQ test? The Wonderlic exam, a cognitive and problem-solving test, measures someone's fluid and crystallized intelligence. Test takers can score a 0 to a 50, where 20 is the average. And if we assume that Jesse's IQ is 85, or the 32nd percentile, we can probably assume he'd score similarly on the Wonderlic. That would give Jesse a score between 17 and 18. A below average, but not considerably. I think Jesse suffers from what we call lazy syndrome. He doesn't apply himself well, and people might be surprised when he fully commits.
I'm not stupid.
Now that we have Jesse's overall general intelligence quotient, let's break down his intelligence into 9 different subgroups, according to American psychologist Howard Gardner. These intelligence types include spatial, naturalist, musical, logical mathematical, existential, interpersonal, bodily kinesthetic, linguistic, and intrapersonal intelligence. We're going to try to be very honest about Jesse's intelligence and give him numbers from 1 to 10 based on what we've seen in the show. Spatial intelligence. This means deriving information from visual data, having an active imagination, and being creative. Chemists are actually really great in this category. And while Jesse isn't at Walter's levels, I think he's got above average spatial intelligence. I give him an 8. Naturalist intelligence is being familiar with nature, animals, plants, and the earth. I think we're given a good amount of proof that Jesse isn't textbook smart, but I don't think he's below average on this one. We see him nurture animals and be more empathetic and fair-minded when it comes to the outdoors. Jesse gets a 6. Musical intelligence is one's ability to discern pitch, rhythm, and be skilled with various instruments. We get some information that Jesse used to be in a band, and even though the band kind of sucks, let's call it average. We'll give him a 5. Logical mathematical is the ability to analyze problems logically and identify solutions. And like I said, we get a few examples where Jesse thinks outside the box and is clever, but he's not textbook smart. This is one of Jesse's main weaknesses. I give him a 4. Existential intelligence relates to being sensitive to questions pertaining to existence, life and death, and purpose. Jesse actually seems to be kind of gifted here. He's very conscientious, reflects on his guilt, and often contemplates his place in the world. I give him a 7. Interpersonal intelligence is defined as being able to effectively communicate and understand others. And we know Jesse doesn't have a mastery of the English language and doesn't have above average understanding of people's body language, moods, or idiosyncrasies. He gets a 4. Bodily kinesthetic intelligence is a mastery over one's physical abilities. And while Jesse's a healthy young adult male, there's not much observable proof that he's above average in this category. He's not a great fighter. Jesse, dude, waltz like 100. Why can't you kick his ass? Jesse gets a 4. Linguistic intelligence is the mastery over reading, vocabulary, and, well, language. And this is where Jesse struggles. He has poor dialect, made-up words, and excessive slang, and, well, bitch. His command over the English language is subpar. Jesse gets a 3. Intrapersonal intelligence is the ability to control and be the master of your own emotions. This one is a little more complex. We see higher than average intelligence for Jesse here, because he's very reflective and aware of his feelings, but sometimes he's very reactive and not in control. Overall, I still give him above average, a 7. And an overall summary. Let's now look at Jesse through the lens of the Myers-Briggs indicator. This assessment is made up of 4 categories: introversion or extroversion, sensing or intuition, thinking or feeling, judging or perceiving. For each one of these 4 groupings, a person will tend to lean towards a single side. Most psychometric experts don't put a lot of actual proof in this assessment, but I thought it could be fun to look at. Jesse falls into the ESFP category, also known as the entertainer. Entertainers love to be the center of attention and feed off the energy of others. They're spontaneous and love to learn through hands-on experience. And while I think later in the show, Jesse does tend to be more introverted, putting him in the ISFP category, I'm still going to leave him as the entertainer. I mean, now let's analyze Jesse on a different type of personality scale, the Neo-PIR, also known as the 5-factor model. In psychology, there are 5 broad trait dimensions that are often referred to as the Big 5. The first trait, openness to experience, manifests as high intellectual curiosity. Individuals like to try new things and they hold unconventional beliefs. Drugs, sex, experimenting, being unpredictable. It sounds like I'm describing Jesse. Drugs, hookers. Jesse gets distracted easily and loves to chase pleasures. And as I've said, he's a little bit more restrained and introverted later in the show, but I still believe it's part of who he is. Conscientiousness is the measure of an individual's self-discipline and awareness of how they impact others. Individuals who rate high in this metric tend to stay organized, are good planners, and think before they act. Those that have low conscientiousness tend to be more laid back and disorderly. Jesse is definitely not a planner, or someone who has their life together at all. In fact, his self-discipline is pretty terrible. Where Jesse does show conscientiousness is how he impacts others. He cares for other people and is aware of how he comes off. But when we sum it all up, I think he's probably a little bit below average. Extroverts tend to be engaged in the outside world. They have excessive amounts of energy, love to talk, and be in the middle of it all. Introverts tend to be more withdrawn and get their energy from being alone. I think it's pretty clear that Jesse is an extrovert in this show. We get a couple different scenes where he doesn't even want to be alone, so he keeps a party going at his place with music, drugs, drinking, just to keep people around. The fourth factor in the Big Five is the agreeableness dimension. Someone who has a very high level of agreeableness tends to be warm, friendly, and approachable. They're understanding and they're empathetic. Jesse is a soft, loving guy, even though he doesn't really always seem like it. Jesse falls into the 80th percentile for agreeableness. The last personality trait on the Neo-PIR is neuroticism. Individuals that have high neuroticism tend to be moody and experience anxiety, jealousy, and anger. They're described as often being self-conscious and shy, lonely, and have trouble controlling urges. I don't think Jesse appears to be a stereotypical neurotic character, but he does fit all the aforementioned criteria to a T. He gets lonely, angry, and sad all the time. Jesse falls into the 90th percentile for neuroticism. Let's now talk about dynamic versus static. Does Jesse go through a radical transformation in Breaking Bad, or is he mostly the same person? I think the answer is pretty clear. Jesse's dynamic. The Jesse we see in the pilot of the show is very different from the Jesse we see in the final episode. And even if we were to look at El Camino, Jesse goes through a very stark change throughout Breaking Bad and his character arc. He starts out as a loud, immature drug dealer who just wants attention and money. But where he ends, a battered, destroyed, humble, soft-spoken man who has seen enough bad shit to fill several people's lifetimes. He's watched 2 women die and has so much guilt on his shoulders, it might kill him one day. But it's clear, Jesse is a dynamic character. Now that we have a good understanding of Breaking Bad, Jesse Pinkman, and his personality, we can now rank Jesse on a predetermined set of metrics. The whole goal at the end of the day is not only to look at our beloved characters and compare their personalities, but we're trying to rank them to find who's the best. Who won more awards? Who did a better job performance-wise? Whose show is better? I think all of these things play into measuring who's the best. We'll be looking at 6 different categories of dimensions, and give Jesse a rank on each, from 1 to 10. Although, of those 6 categories, not all of them should carry the same weight. Some measurements are undeniably more important than others, and the scores of those particular ones should reflect that. Here, let's look at it this way. I'm going to break down the 6 metrics we measure Jesse on into 3 categories. The yellow middle category, or normal weight, will be out of the normal 10 points. The second category, or the green, it's called half weight, which will get him half points. In the final category, the red category, is called double weight. If Jesse gets a 7 out of 10 in the double weight category, it'll get him 14 points towards his overall grade. If you do the math, the final potential maximum score will be out of 70 points. And while in the previous episodes, I mentioned House and Elizabeth Jennings got a 47, I think going forward, we're going to do percentages. 47 out of 70 is just a weird number, so let's contextualize it. House and Elizabeth Jennings both got a 67% or a D+. Let's see how Jesse does. The first of the 6 categories, awards, is the first of the normal weight. Aaron Paul's Breaking Bad resume for awards is just incredible. Aaron Paul had over 20 nominations between Emmys, Golden Globes, Saturn, and Satellite Awards for portraying Jesse Pinkman. And most importantly, Aaron Paul won the Best Supporting Actor Emmy 3 times, with a total of 5 nominations for 6 seasons. In the modern era of supporting acting for TV, it is hard to find an actor who was better rewarded for their performance. Damn, I guess he really wasn't overshadowed, was he? Coming off of discussing Aaron Paul's awards, it would be stupid to say anything other than his performance was amazing. But I want to be critical and honest here. And while I do admit that Aaron Paul did an awesome job portraying Jesse, I don't believe his acting performance was at the same level of other really high caliber actors. I will say that Aaron Paul really excels in emulating typical addict behavior without going too overboard. Aaron Paul's on-screen chemistry with others is also fantastic, but I don't know how much nuance there is in his performance. And when you stack him up against television greats, I wouldn't say he's at the top of the list. The carry factor refers to how much Jesse or Aaron Paul really carried the series. Is the show all about Jesse Pinkman? Does his performance and character arc really shoulder the load of the whole series? While Jesse is incredibly integral to the narrative arc of the show, his performance and arc aren't always the center point. You've got some of the best written scenes, acting, and character arcs from a billion different characters. Walter White, Saul, Skylar, Gus, Hank, all of whom are integral to the show's storytelling. Jesse Pinkman is but a cog in a very intricate, intelligent, and masterfully crafted machine. The second normal weight category, show presence, is a fancy term for discussing how popular and high quality a show is. Is it television's best? Or what does a show mean for a generation? Listen, let's save some time here. I wouldn't even be able to cover how many top 10 lists Breaking Bad is on. When we talk about the greatest TV shows ever, I don't think many would argue. Performances, narrative originality, masterfully interwoven themes, breathtaking, daring cinematography, genre-defining moments. Let's just save some time here. The second half-weight category is uniqueness. And simply put, how unique is Jesse? He's a young, naive, poor white kid, I'll put kid in quotations, who gets addicted to drugs and makes meth with his former chemistry teacher. Interesting premise, but the core of his character, a burnout who wants to make quick cash, isn't really super unique. Jesse's transformation into a more humble, traumatized man is amazing, but as far as being really unique and unlike any character we've ever seen, he's mid-tier at best. What do we mean when we say writing quality, when it pertains to a character? Writing a truly compelling character means a lot of different things. a unique, interesting premise about their current lifestyle, a fascinating backstory or upbringing, subverting expectations of their choices and journey on the show. Jesse is an intelligently written character. He's complex, dynamic, and inherently human. As Walter White becomes more evil and his empire rises, Jesse becomes more sympathetic and morally just. I think that Jesse still represents the ability to repair and transform oneself. He is the surprising moral compass to a show that no one would have predicted at the beginning.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
Jesse portrays innocence and delivers some of the most powerful lines we've ever seen.
So put it out. You can't keep getting away with it! He can't keep getting away with it! He won't.
And
Everything I have ever cared about is gone. I have never been more alone. I have nothing!
all the while, on a show where he only shares part of the spotlight with so many other important, incredible characters. Try to name a more prominent accomplishment in modern TV. I'll wait. So when we add it all up, this is an impressive score, almost 15% higher than his Fox and FX show counterparts. And it's not only because Jesse is on a special show, it's because he's really incredible in so many ways. He's a redeemable person with a lot of traits that we don't admire, but to err is human, no? He feels like the main character more often than not, with loyal sidekicks who often feel like better people than Walter's own family. He brought comic relief into a show, all the while professionally portraying the dangers of substance abuse. In a universe where death happens as often as you crack your knuckles, greed is on everyone's mind, and betrayal is as commonplace as the morning coffee. Jesse, despite his faults, stands out in a special way. He reminds us that no one is perfect, and despite all of your mistakes, missteps, and misfortunes, if you have a good heart, you can make it out the other side okay. Thanks again so much for watching. Already working on my next video. I'll have it up as soon as I can. I will see everybody soon.